back on the record after taking a short break. Attorney Plantinga, do you have any other questions for the witness?
Yes. When you first started as the director, did you have individual meetings with some of the physicians, or sorry, some of the staff?
I'm sure I did. I don't recall.
Did you have a meeting with Dr. McMurray in your office?
I don't recall that we met in my office until the review is the first time that I recall meeting her in my office.
Certainly.
On August 9th.
You say you don't recall. Are you saying it didn't happen, or your recollection is kind of fuzzy on that point?
No, I don't remember meeting her in my office until August 9th.
Okay. Now, I'd like to talk about this occupational therapy meeting. They were there to present a new program, right?
Yes.
And they wanted a buy-in from neuropsychology.
Yes.
Because the program depended on sort of the involvement or participation with neuropsychology, right?
I don't remember those details, but okay.
That would make sense as to why they wanted a joint meeting, though, right?
I don't recall that. I don't recall that it involved that they were needed for a particular role, or if it was informational that this was available. That's my understanding. That it was a new program that was available resource, not that they needed them to do something. I don't recall that part.
You said earlier, though, that a buy-in neuropsychology would be desirable, right?
I didn't say that. You said that. I don't believe I said that.
I think you agreed to the question. Well,
okay.
The judge can recall.
But yes,
sorry.
Yes, they would have wanted them to support what they're doing. But I don't believe there was anything neuropsychology needed to do for them to make their program complete. It was more send us referrals. When you're seeing patients in senior health and other areas that have cognitive decline, this is a new resource that's available.
Okay. And that would be a reason why they would meet jointly.
Yes.
To explain this new program.
Yes.
And you would expect for people in neuropsychology to be engaged in that process, correct?
Yes.
To ask questions if they had questions?
Yes.
And do you recall specifically what questions Pam McMurray asked?
Confirming that they weren't diagnosing, something about billing. There was a series of questions that all came together, and it was how the questions are asked and the tone in which they were asked and the body language that I was focused on, not the content of the questions themselves.
Okay, so is the pace of the questions more so than the content of the questions? Right?
I'm sorry?
It was the pace of the questions rather than the content of the questions that was your focus?
Pace and tone and nonverbals, yes.
And even though you thought the pace and the tone were so distinctive, you don't recall any of the specific questions that were asked, right?
I believe I put some of them in the email. It was around billing. It was around, so you're not diagnosing. I remember her confirming that, but no, the feeling stuck with me more than the actual content.
Now, there were meetings, I'll have you assume, in that October 2017 timeframe between Julie Jackson and people in HR, correct? I'll ask you to assume that you didn't participate in those meetings.
No.
basically Julie Jackson asked you to provide information to her, and that's really your role in this.
Yes, I think.
That's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Anything else, Attorney Mitchell?
Yes, a few things. Ms. Zuercher, referring back to the fiscal year 17 performance evaluation that you completed for Dr. McMurray, your only expectation of Dr. Schwartz in providing information towards that fiscal year 17 eval was information regarding Dr. McMurray's clinical skills, correct?
Yes.
Okay. You mentioned that in hindsight, you would have probably downgraded. During direct, you testified that you probably would have downgraded Dr. McMurray in the teamwork compassion section of her performance evaluation. Is that correct?
Yes.
And that was after you had attended the meetings with the August 7th meeting, the October 24th coding meeting, correct?
Yes.
The opposing counsel on his cross-examination referred you to the values, respect, and fun section of the performance evaluation. Do you recall him doing that?
Yes.
Would you have changed or downgraded your assessments of Dr. McMurray under this section too, with the same benefit of hindsight?
Yes.
Regarding the strike that. Regarding the August 7th OT meeting, bearing in mind this meeting took place 4 years ago, and you testified that you don't recall the exact conversations that took place at that meeting. Your testimony in direct was that you recall Dr. McMurray displaying hostile, nonverbal behaviors or cues, correct?
Yes.
And you also testified that she had a tone to her questioning which bothered you, correct?
Yes.
And on direct, you also testified that nobody else at that meeting displayed any of the same or similar comparable nonverbal cues or behavior, or had the same type of tonnage in their questions as Dr. McMurray, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And you testified on direct that you didn't understand the gravity of what you witnessed at that August 7th OT meeting until later, correct?
Yes.
Is it a fair statement that we'll strike that. Did you not report this August 7th meeting to Julie Jackson for any particular reason at the time?
No. But I'll say that I wouldn't get a lot of time with her, so it was I made the best use that I could of that time, and at the time, again, I didn't understand the gravity and was kind of in a wait and see.
So the fact that you didn't understand the gravity of what you had witnessed at the August 7th meeting is a reason why you didn't report that behavior to Julie Jackson at the time in August, correct?
Correct.
And likewise, it's also why you didn't, I believe your testimony on direct was you didn't raise the concern with Dr. McMurray because, again, you didn't understand the gravity of what you had witnessed at the August 7th meeting, correct?
Correct.
And it wasn't until you attended another meeting, the coding meeting on October 24th with Dr. McMurray, that it put into focus the behavior that you saw and witnessed on August 7th, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And you testified in direct that you had conversations about your concerns, both about the August 7th meeting and what you had observed at the October 24th meeting with Julie Jackson. You had those conversations before Julie Jackson asked you to put anything in writing.
Yes, that's correct.
And you testified in direct that you did not feel or interpret any, that Julie Jackson was trying to influence your opinion one way or another about Dr. McMurray, correct?
No.
Okay, that's all I have.
Anything else, Attorney Plantinga?
Yes, I do have a couple. You said that you did not go to Julie Jackson because you wanted to make the best use of your time with her, right?
Yes.
And so in the issues that you needed to bring to her attention, you didn't think that the August 7th meeting at the time was one of those issues that rose to the top, right?
At the time, there was no decision for her to make, and I didn't know that anything had happened previously. In hindsight, I wish she would have told me more, and I would have addressed everything.
Ms. Zuercher, the question was, we're talking about at the time, you didn't go to talk to Julie Jackson, right?
I did not.
And part of your calculus in making that decision was that you did not consider it the best use of your time. That's what you testified to, correct?
I feel like you're twisting my words. I apologize if I'm speaking out of turn.
You prioritized what
There
you,
wasn't
can I get the question out, please?
You can.
You had to prioritize your interactions with Julie Jackson in that time period, right?
Yes, always.
Okay. And in prioritizing your time with Julie Jackson, you did not consider this August 7th meeting to merit a time with Julie Jackson, correct? You didn't talk to her about it.
Jackson was characterizing the witness's testimony.
You can answer the question.
Can you please ask it again?
Sure. You had to prioritize your time with Julie Jackson in that time frame, correct?
Yes.
And in prioritizing the things you needed to bring to her attention, one of those things was not the August 7th meeting, right?
Yes. May
Okay.
I please say there was no decision for her to make? I needed to.
I didn't ask you about that, ma'am.
Okay.
Judge,
Thank
could
you.
I ask an instruction to the witness?
Yeah, please just answer the questions that the attorneys ask. If Attorney Mitchell wants you to follow up on something, he'll ask additional questions, but just focus on the question that both attorneys are asking.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. You said that you did get some information from Eben Schwartz concerning the review for 2017, right?
Yes.
You would also get some information from Eben Schwartz when you would do site visits or meetings with him because he was the clinical director, right?
Yes.
At no time did Eben Schwartz indicate to you that there were either problems currently or in the past with Pam McMurray.
At some point it came up. I need to understand the time frame that you're referring to, please.
Okay. Prior to August 24, 2017. That's the coding meeting date, right?
I don't believe
No,
I was.
I just want to correct that because you said August 24th. I think the coding meeting was October 24th.
Sorry. The coding meeting was October 24, right?
Yes.
Okay. Prior to October 24, did Eben Schwartz ever indicate to you any problems that he had with Pam McMurray either before you started at Pro Healthcare or after you arrived?
I believe once Neva Schwartz pushed back on scheduling that meeting, there was discussion, and I was brought into the loop that there was more going on because Neva was upset, didn't want to meet, and so I believe somewhere in that time frame. It might not have been exactly then, but at some point there was discussion.
Did that discussion come from Evan Schwartz, though?
At some point we had to have discussed it.
Clearly wasn't in any email, right?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. So I get just give a second. That's all I have for this witness.
Anything else, Attorney Mitchell?
No, not from me. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Zuercher, for your testimony. We're going to have a few more witnesses come in after you, so I just would ask that you not talk about your testimony with anybody until after the hearing is concluded at the end of the day today.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Thanks for your testimony.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you.
And I think it looks like it could be Neva or Neva might be in the lobby. I see well, it doesn't say the person's full name. It just says JSCHW in the lobby. So I'm assuming that might be her.
I presume so. I told her to be ready around 10:30. If you don't mind, Judge, can we take maybe 5 minutes before
Sure.
we check in with Ms. Schwartz?
Sure. So we will come back about 5 too.
Okay, 10:55. Thank you.
All right. Ms. Schwartz, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Can you turn on your video, please? All right. So we are going to start, Ms. Schwartz, with Attorney Mitchell asking you some questions. Attorney Plantinga may have some questions for you as well after, and they may go back and forth a little bit with their questions. I just want to make sure you don't have any documents or anything in front of you at this point.
I do for work in my office.
But nothing related to this case. Okay, because I'll be showing if there's any questions about any exhibits, I'll be showing them on the screen. So, all right. I do need to swear you in, though, if you could raise your right hand. Do you solemnly, sincerely, and truly declare and affirm that the testimony you will give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right. And then could you just state your name and spell it for us, please?
Neva Schwartz, Nevah Schwartz, SCHWARTZ.
All right. Attorney Mitchell, whenever you're ready, you can go ahead.
Thank you, Judge, and good morning, Ms. Schwartz. Ms. Schwartz, who is your current employer?
Pro Healthcare,
And when did you start with Pro Healthcare?
May of 2000.
And what is your current position with Pro Healthcare?
Certified professional coach.
And what do you do as a certified professional coder?
I review notes for providers. Presently, I work in mental health providers. Review notes to help release them with accurate documents.
Okay, Ms. Schwartz, you're cutting in and out. I'm not sure if I'm the only one experiencing that.
I'm getting a big echo, so I'm not always hearing.
I'm not sure how to fix that, guys. I am truly not a computer person.
That's okay. There's been a lot of echoing throughout the whole hearing, so I don't know that it's even on your end. Could you maybe just repeat your answer to that? And maybe Attorney Mitchell, if you want to ask the question again and just have her restate the answer.
Sure. Ms. Schwartz, as a certified medical coder, what do you presently do at Pro Healthcare?
I review notes with providers for release of notes with correct documentation.
Okay, thank you. And when did you start at Pro Healthcare? I'm sorry if I asked that already.
It's okay. May of 2000.
Okay, could you walk us through your job trajectory from 2000 to the present date?
I started as a receptionist at the Brookfield Clinic, transferred into professional billing follow-up. From there, I went to billing at our Heartland Clinic, went into coding in 2009, and I've been in coding since then.
Did you at any point as a coder with Pro Healthcare code for the neuropsychology section?
Yes, I did.
And approximately during what timeframes did you provide those services?
I'm going to say approximately 2010 to, I'm guessing, 2015.
What year did you start in? I didn't get that.
What year did I start? 2010.
Okay, thank you.
Did you ever provide intermittent services to the coding services to the neuropsychology section after 2015?
Yes.
Okay. Can you describe your post high school educational history, please?
Graduation 12th grade and certified classes for becoming a professional coder.
And as a certified professional coder, that's a license or a title that you receive?
A license.
License. And who bestows that license?
AATC stands for American Academy of Professional Coders.
Okay. And do you recall when you obtained that license?
11 of 2013.
Okay. During the time that you coded for neuropsych, including after 2015 when you would intermittently code with neuropsychology, did you ever have to deal directly with Dr. McMurray?
Yes, I did.
And can you describe the kind of interactions you had with Dr. McMurray and how frequently?
They were usually about documentation, viewing of the note, communicating back to Dr. McMurray in epic messages, majorly. Sorry, let's say that differently. Majorly, I did it with an epic message discussing if a diagnosis is not reflected in her note, but she entered it, asking for direction to where it's in her note, or if it was a note that was with Medicare and Medicare was specific on what they expect for diagnoses with neuropsychology, then I would send back a message saying, this is not payable. Is there something else that can be supported within your note that would follow Medicare guidelines?
Thank you. And for the record, what is EPIC?
EPIC is electronic medical.
And you used that EPIC system at Pro Healthcare?
Yes.
Can you estimate how often you communicated with Dr. McMurray via EPIC?
That's over years. I couldn't tell you. Once a month, I'm truly guessing there.
Did you ever interact with Dr. McMurray in any other way aside from EPIC?
We would have attend staff meetings. I know many years ago they had a consultant that came in. We were all the department and coding and compliance were involved in those. So there are other ways that we communicated other than EPIC, yes.
Do you recall if there was ever a time that you had to meet with Dr. McMurray when an insurance company may not have been paying a service that Dr. McMurray was providing? Did you ever have an occasion to meet with her to discuss an issue like that?
Most of it was EPIC. Could have had a face-to-face at one time, but I don't remember. Going back a lot of years.
What type of insurance companies did you typically deal with as a medical coder?
All insurances that are available. That would be thousands, I guess.
Okay.
Dr. McMurray dealt with adult patients, so many times adult patients include Medicaid.
Medicare, you said?
Yes.
Okay. Do any instances come to mind in which you would have an issue arising out of a Medicare, like a Medicare coding issue that you had to deal with, Dr. McMurray?
Yes.
Do any interactions stand out in your mind?
Communication would be, this is diagnosed not payable, and she would give pushback on, this is what my note says, Medicare should have different guidelines. It was not easily acceptable when I would present it that this was something that was not accepted by Medicare. I took it more as I personally was doing this to her, while it was not. It's completely, I follow the rules of Medicare. Actually, I follow the rules of coding.
Okay, in relation to other companies, how clear are the Medicare coding and guidelines?
Medical coding gives you a list. It's on their website. We have presented that to the neuropsych department over the years. Some years the Medicare updates the list, either removes add new ones. But it's very clear, very clear. There's nothing that coder or a company could do to say no, that's not correct. Medicare is pretty much black and white.
And you used the word pushback, I believe. Did you ever receive pushback from Dr. McMurray regarding a Medicare coding issue?
Yes.
And can you just describe generally what that pushback looked like?
That was kind of what I said before. The communication I would bring to her, reviewing the note, we see that the note diagnosis was not payable, presenting that back to her, asking for her to review her note. And is there another diagnosis that she could select that's supported within her note? That was the response. Sometimes different. Sometimes it was she accepted it. Sometimes it irritated her, and she would come back with, I don't know why, and I'd have to look at something that's particularly was said, but it was not easy to work with it that way. I just made things very difficult.
Okay, so you said that Dr. McMurray made things difficult. So how did Dr. McMurray's pushback or challenging behavior impact, if it did, your ability to perform your job?
It affected it because there was a lot of friction with it. Either I'd have to go to my supervisor and go, what should I say? Or it would come down to, we just would leave it as is. I received epic messages where it was, why, kind of like a paragraph explaining why she felt this should be this way. And I could completely understand as a provider seeing it that way, but this was my role. And the thing that happens is whether we send it out proactively correct or we wait for denial, either way, we would be coming back to the provider and asking for input on it. So these were usually done prior, making it accurate as possible and at the same time payable with Medicare.
Do you think that Dr. McMurray's pushback or challenging behavior made it more difficult for you to perform your job?
Yes, definitely.
How did you perceive, aside from the impact on your job, how did you personally perceive Dr. McMurray's pushback or challenging behavior in terms of how it impacted you personally?
As if I was not, that my job was not valued by her, that I was not valued by her, that what I said was took it as that she felt I was approaching her with this on a personal level, not as a professional level, that this is my job. It was, I felt confrontational when you would get the messages back. Felt that, that each and every time it was discussed prior, we gave information to the department, we gave information for what was on this list. And those were things that we had concrete answers for. Many times with insurances, not so concrete.
And you said each and every time, did you experience these challenging behaviors from Dr. McMurray on more than one occasion?
Yes, yes.
Can you explain, give an estimation of how many times or over what time period? When did it start?
It started from the very beginning of taking over or doing their coding. From the very beginning, it was a challenge. It was a challenge with the department, but it became a challenge more specifically with Dr. McMurray. Many times questioned, who was I to ask for these questions? Who was I to go to my superiors going, do I have a right to ask these questions? And if over the years, it was enough to make you constantly feel like stressed when you have to send her something back. Going, what kind of response am I going to get? Am I going to get nice, okay, or am I going to get, lines of, I don't know why I have to do this. I never had to do it before. It was just, you never quite knew what response you were going to get from her.
So based on your experience, your cumulative experience with Dr. McMurray and your interactions together, did you ever form sort of an expectation of how your interactions would be with Dr. McMurray in the future?
Not hopeful. It was stressful. It was, like I said, you just never knew how she was going to accept your message. It was going to be taken this time it was going to be an easy ride and understandable, or if it was going to be argumentative.
And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, did you say that you reported these challenging encounters to people on your team?
Did I record them?
Report them.
Report them, yes. Yes, I did.
And to whom did you report these challenging encounters?
The billing manager years ago, who I worked under. At this time, I don't work under billing managers, so all structures have changed. A supervisor, at one time, I think it was I want to say CFO, but I don't remember. Like I said, so much of this is quite a while ago. But my supervisors definitely, whichever time, if it became something I couldn't handle, or if it became something that she out and out did not do or comply with, then I would definitely go to my supervisor.
Okay, and were these reports to your billing manager or your supervisor, were these oral reports or written reports typically?
If it was an epic message, I would forward that to my superior, whoever it was at that time. So it could be oral along with the message. But if I had her writing something back to me, I definitely forwarded that to my supervisor.
Did you ever report before the year 2017, did you ever report any challenging encounters with Dr. McMurray to Julie Jackson?
In 2017?
Prior to 2017.
Oh, prior. I'm not sure what you're answering. I'm sorry, I'm not understanding your question.
Sure. Prior to 2017, we'll strike that. Do you know who Julie Jackson is?
Yes.
Okay. Prior to 2017, did you ever report any challenging behaviors you had with Dr. McMurray to Julie Jackson?
Yes.
And why would you raise your concerns about Dr. McMurray's challenging behavior to Julie?
Well,
Jackson?
it usually started with Linda Porter. Linda Porter was, I really don't know what her title was, but she was one to help assist. Sometimes it was one to help understand kind of where Dr. McMurray was coming from. I kind of felt that that was a good way of trying to understand how best to work together. And in that, then Julie Jackson became involved, requesting to let her know, what struggles what I go through when I communicate with her.
So it sounds like you made an attempt with Linda Porter, at least, to understand how to, improve communication with Dr. McMurray.
Often, yes.
And how did that work out?
I don't think that Linda would give me suggestions, that, and I can't remember, it's been a while, but it would be possibly know that this is how she sees it, or this is how Evan Schwartz saw it, or Dr. Torres saw it a certain way, so that maybe that was her mind thought. So it would kind of help me maybe have a more, calmer way of understanding it, but it didn't help.
Did you service any other neuropsychology providers or
Yeah.
any other providers besides Dr. McMurray?
During the same time, yes.
Yes. Okay. Did you ever have to have, meetings with other providers to explain things, for example, like Medicare's coding system
Yes.
to other providers?
Yes.
Would some of these other providers ever give you pushback on the issues you presented to them?
In the beginning, yes, everybody kind of went with what and frustrated, and understandably, it is very frustrating when Medicare tells you something that you just completely don't understand. But
How did
once
the push? Oh, continue,
I
please.
but once we presented, it would be myself and my supervisor would present. This is what Medicare gives. We printed it out. We gave a list of the diagnoses, who they are. This is what they're going to pay. There was a much better understanding, and the responses were, "Oh, I forgot." It became, if you sent it to them, you go, "Oh, that code doesn't work," and they respond with either changing it or changing their documentation.
So other providers would understand, like that. Other providers responded to you differently than Dr.
Yes.
McMurray did after you would provide, explanations on coding issues.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. How did the pushback, that early pushback or any pushback from the other providers regarding coding issues compare to Dr. McMurray's pushback?
Once it was shared and we came to a common knowledge of what the expectation is between what Medicare wants, between what coding is sharing, what coding is here to help with, the responses were acceptable. They didn't say no, or they didn't come back with, I don't get it, or, it was more of accepting of the role I had and what was expected of their documentation.
Did you find Dr. McMurray's pushback to be more disrespectful or than the pushback you received from other providers?
Yes. Yes.
And can you elaborate on that?
It was disrespectful, condescending. Who was I to ask this? And again, some of the things that I remember are, I've never done it. I've never had to do it this way for 6 years. I don't know why you're telling me now. I find it unnecessary to do this. You're wasting my time. It was just very confrontational.
And how did that make you feel, those confrontational behaviors?
Very unworthy, devalued, not at her level at all.
Did you attend a coding meeting with Dr. McMurray or staff meeting, which that you attended with Dr. McMurray in October 2017?
That she was in attendance.
Yes.
We attended a staff meeting in the neuropsychology department. Myself, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Myself, another coder that was going to be taking on neuropsychology. I believe my supervisor, to be honest with you, I think we were in interim supervisors at that time. Don't remember her name. Other neuropsychologists, director, I think Jessica Z was there. And we came to present the new coder. This is who they were going to be working with. She's going to be taking over. And at that time, we brought documentation again from Medicare, provided what was needed and where we were seeing things that, you could use this diagnosis. This is now available on Medicare guidelines, and left those. We put together a packet and left that there at the meeting.
You mentioned a Jessica Z attending that meeting. Do you mean Jessica Zuercher?
Yes, I don't know how to pronounce her last name. Sorry.
Okay. And does the date October 24th, 2017 sound about right for this coding meeting?
Yes, and I'm guessing. I cannot guarantee you that was the date.
Okay. Preceding the meeting, did you have an expectation about how the meeting would go with Dr. McMurray?
Yes, I did not, let the other coder know that, that she does not accept our information very well. And this is a struggle for the coding for neuropsych. I did not expect, valuing who we were or even caring who the new coder was.
And that was specific to Dr. McMurray?
Correct.
And in your view, how did the meeting go?
Overall, it went well with all of the other providers and attendees. Dr. McMurray was not respectful, certainly not to me. She sat right next to me, sat her back to me. When we had questions or she had a question and she answered it, she did not even turn her face or even acknowledge that I was there.
Okay. And these behaviors that you observed, did you find that they impacted your ability or challenged your ability to present the information you came to present at that coding meeting?
I don't know that it caused that. It just makes you just want to go. That's really what it came down to. I just don't even want to deal with this because it never is a pleasant experience at all.
It's not a personally a pleasant experience. Is that what you mean?
Personally, yes. You worry about it before you get there and you're just tense. That's all.
Okay. Did you have any conversations with Jessica Zuercher after the meeting?
I don't believe it. That meeting we discussed it, but it's possible. I don't remember specifically speaking with her.
Okay. Judge, can we show the witness responding to Exhibit 15, please?
Can you see that?
Yes.
Now, Ms. Schwartz, you testified earlier that prior to 2017, you had come to you had gone to Ms. Jackson, Julie Jackson, with concerns about Dr. McMurray's challenging behaviors, correct?
Yes,
Okay. Do you recognize this email thread?
yes.
Can you explain what's going on in this email thread?
Julie wanted information as to what I was addressing with Dr. McMurray and what the issues, some of the issues wanted a little more specific information. And since I had just kind of stepped into any involvement in neuropsych again, and it had not been for probably 2 years, that what some of my feedback was.
Was this email out of the blue to you?
No, not at all.
And why is that?
I'm not, I think, and I'm only going on memory here, and I'm not sure. I think Linda Porter and I spoke, and I asked about what was going on since they were bringing a new coder. What were the issues? What was going on? And that I think is why it didn't surprise me. I requested that Julie requested information.
What was the last thing you said? That kind of dropped out. What did Julie request?
That when Julie asked for this information from me, that I wasn't surprised.
And were you not surprised because this was an established issue with Dr. McMurray?
Yeah, it was well known.
And can you characterize your comments or describe your comments to Julie in your October 24th email?
As far as, I'm sorry, I'm not sure what you're asking me.
Well, for example, in the first paragraph, are you referencing the coding meeting we just discussed?
That paragraph is not necessarily reflective only of the coding meeting. This was going back to other things that had happened in the past.
Okay, but does it, at least in part, address the coding meeting?
Right, right.
And are some of the statements you make in this email, are these issues that you had raised with Julie Jackson personally prior to 2017? Are they consistent with those?
Not as specific as this is, but yes, you know.
Does the content of this email reflect an accurate and consistent assessment of your personal opinion about Dr. McMurray and those challenging encounters that you had at the time that you wrote this email?
Yes.
In your view, did Julie Jackson ever seek to influence your opinion about Dr. McMurray as stated here in this email?
No, not really. They weren't long conversations with her.
Did Jessica Zuercher, in your view, at any time ever seek to influence your opinion about Dr. McMurray as stated here in this
No,
email?
not at all.
That's all I have for this witness.
Anything for her, Attorney Plantinga?
Yes. Ms. Schwartz, earlier you talked about you're in the coding department, correct?
Yes.
Okay. You don't make coding decisions on all bills. That's
No.
correct?
Correct.
It's only when your immediate supervisor asks you to review bills and the coding that you would then look at the bill, correct?
No. That's my coding, that's an assignment I have for the providers I work for. If there's an issue or a problem, yes, then I would go to my supervisor.
Okay, and so some of your interactions with different departments came because you were directed to do that by your immediate supervisor, correct?
I'm not sure. Overall, yes. I'm not really sure what you're asking. Sorry.
All right. And in the, you said that you were tasked with neuropsychology as one of your departments, 2010 to 2015, right?
A guess of memory, yes.
Okay. And some of those concerns that you'd expressed to Julie Jackson would have been obviously prior to 2015, maybe 2011, 2012?
I don't know what date.
Okay.
I can't give you a date or a
All
year.
right. It could have been that early in the time that you were assigned to neuropsychology.
Julie was the director for quite a while. It could have been in that time, sure.
Okay. Now, sometimes you would have to meet with the doctor, but usually it would be exchanges by email over the Epic system.
Correct.
Other than the coding meeting, can you recall a face-to-face that you had with Dr. McMurray?
Other than that last meeting, I really can't put a date or a time to having a conversation quickly with her or the department. That last meeting, because it had been, again, guessing, again, 2 years while I had not been working with that department. No, there were staff meetings we went to. I mentioned a consultant that came in. I know we were physically there, but we're talking quite a few years back.
And you don't recall, obviously, any sit-downs one-on-one with you and Pam McMurray, correct?
Not that I can recall.
Okay. And fair to say that most of your communications with Pam McMurray would be by email over the Epic system?
Yeah, an Epic message, yes.
Okay. Now, I think you said that in the 2016, 2017 timeframe, you were not assigned in neuropsychology, but would become involved from time to time. Is that right?
Yeah, so if they have questions or coverage, someone's out of the office. I believe when the coder prior at that time had left the company, they asked me to step in and help out.
Okay, so your interactions with Pam McMurray or neuropsychology would be less when it was no longer your department, correct?
Yes.
Now, you understand because you feel frustrated yourself in dealing with insurance companies and billing, right?
Yes.
And similarly, you'd expect doctors who want to get paid for their work, presumably, they might be frustrated too, correct?
Definitely.
Sort of comes with the territory that no one's in love with health insurance companies at Pro Healthcare.
I think overall, nobody is in love with health insurance companies.
Some of the doctors sort of see it as a necessary evil, but it's something you got to do.
It's part of the job, yes.
Okay. And similarly, Medicare billing, that at times can make you want to pull your hair out, right?
Pretty much, I guess.
Okay. And you would struggle with it sometimes. Other doctors might struggle with it. Fair to say? Is that yes?
Is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay. I think you froze.
Yes, I did.
Now, you described receiving pushback from Dr. McMurray relating to coding issues, right?
Yes.
Okay. Could we go to Respondent Exhibit 45?
Sure, just 1 second. Do you see that, Ms. Schwartz?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Um, if we could scroll down just a little bit.
Sure. Here, or keep going.
Yeah, let's go there first. This is what you had wrote to Julie Jackson, right?
I'm missing that part in here. I think I just get this on. I don't want to hit anything. Okay. This portion right here?
Yes.
Yes,
Neva is you and Julie is Julie Jackson, right?
right.
Right. And you wrote this email. Sorry, can we scroll up a tiny bit?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I only see the end part there. Okay.
Okay, all right. But you would have written it prior to October 19, correct? If your looks like this, whatever you sent to Julie Jackson was being forwarded, right?
I'm not understanding this email in front of me. It's nothing that I'm aware of. So
Okay.
whatever Julie is saying, I'm not sure if what's attached to this. I don't know.
Okay.
It's-
Neva feedback about Dr. Pam McMurray is a description of the attachment, correct?
Right.
And the subject is Neva.
It's Neva. Just
I'm sorry.
okay. It's okay.
I'll get it right. All
Yeah.
right.
This
It
and
says-
what
And I'm not going to ask you what Julie Jackson thought when she said the attached document is not what I expected, but did she ever circle back with you about receiving any information in written form?
if I received what in written form?
Sure. She asked for something from you in written form, correct?
Correct. Yes.
And she meaning Julie Jackson.
Yes.
Okay. And did she ever get, after you sent it to her, did she ever circle back and say, Neva, I have some questions, can you provide more? Anything of that nature?
No.
Okay. Could we scroll down a little bit, Judge?
Sure. Do you want me to go to like the Epic?
Yeah, let's
Thing.
go there. Okay.
Is there a specific one, or?
Why don't we start with that one? Now, you pulled from your, would you call it your computer systems, these epic messages that then you forwarded to Julie Jackson?
I'm assuming I did.
Okay. Your computer system basically saves these messages over a long period of time, right? Back and forth on billing?
These messages are what?
Does your computer system at Pro Healthcare save these epic messages like we're looking
Yes.
at now over a
I
long
do.
period of time?
Right. I do. Yes.
Okay. Back as far as 2010, 2011?
I'd have to look, but it could be. I don't think it's that far back, but I certainly know that I go back a couple of years. I keep all of my messages in the system.
Okay. And then, so you were asked to look for the messages, sort of like a greatest hits, right? And in other words, the messages that you felt best illustrated Pam McMurray's belittling attitude, pushback, what have you.
I don't remember how Julie presented it to me, so I'm sorry, if this is showing that I gave this to her, then I did. I honestly don't remember taking messages out of Epic and sending them to her. I don't remember. That's
Okay. The reason is, the reason, Neva, that you sent those messages to her, though, was because she asked for examples of your interactions with Pam McMurray that would be negative in nature. Broad picture, right?
yes.
Okay. let's take a look at this first one. And this looks to be where she meant to put dementia, but instead she put depression for coding, correct?
Yes, yes.
And she acknowledges that that was her fault.
Yes.
She mentions, she ends it with thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything that's belittling or demeaning in this message that you forwarded on to Julie Jackson?
My question is, in charge capture, he had a diagnosis of depression, which means when she entered this charge, she entered a diagnosis. I did not. So when I bring it back to her and she says, I didn't, it should have been dementia. In fact, I have it in my notes. Was made to be that I took it, but it meant I should not even be asking her this question. It was in her note. That wasn't my question, though.
She acknowledges that she was the one who made the mistake, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Please scroll down a little bit further.